Greetings. Welcome to the SciFi Pubcast, the podcast that tries to be a pub, and perhaps someday a pub that tries to be a podcast. As always, we are looking for customers to come visit our bar. So if you're passionate about something and want to be on a podcast, well, please let us know, because this bar is all about community. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a 5-star review wherever you find the show, joining our Discord server, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. That's it, channel. Yes. I'm Joel. I'm the guy with the speech impediment. Sometimes I stutter. Sorry about that, but hey, that's my life. I'm the owner of the SciFi Pubcast, so to speak, and today at the bar, let's see who we have. And we have our regular staff members, Carrie Simpson and Derek BB. How's everyone? Hey!
Hello.
Well, I apologize for any background noise. It's already 90 degrees. It's noon, and it's 90 degrees, and the air conditioners are on. Deal with it.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand the West Coast is getting hit with a heat wave, and that includes Southern California. Okay.
I am baking and not in a fun way.
Yes. So, Southern California, how's the forest fire situation? Has that started up yet for the season?
Oh, it's perpetual now. I think there's a fire up north somewhere. I'm sure there's a fire somewhere else. I mean, climate change is a liberal hoax, right?
Oh God.
Except for all the burning.
Yeah.
And hurricanes and shit.
Yeah. Just wait until the aliens invade. That's the next thing.
Please.
Okay. God. Speaking of aliens, we also have Derek. Hey, Derek, how are you? And how's Pennsylvania doing? Okay.
Hello. Pennsylvania is actually about 90 degrees too right now.
Oh yeah.
You guys probably have more humidity than I do too.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's the humidity that would kill me.
Oh God. So how's things in PA?
Not bad. I'm coming out of a Benadryl coma just now because I was cat sitting this morning, and the cat was very excited to see me and got all over me. And I guess I touched my eye or something, and I could actually see welts coming out of my eyelid. It was really disgusting.
Wow.
And very uncomfortable too, I might add.
I would say it's a dog's breakfast, but it was a cat, so maybe the cat meow. Oh, there you go.
I actually never heard of that phrase until relatively recently. I think I first heard of it on Stargate Atlantis, maybe. And I was like, dog's breakfast, what is that? And I actually had to go look it up.
Oh, good. At least you're learning and you're trying to teach yourself new things. This is always a good thing. I'm encouraged.
Is that strictly a Canadian saying, or is that a British saying?
I have no idea. I think my American relatives use the same saying. I don't know. Actually, they live like an hour away from you. Maybe you can go ask them. I don't know. Okay. Any which way, I get to see that it wasn't the food in the kitchen that's made you sick. It was more of a cat, right? Right?
Yes. Oh God, I don't eat our own food. No.
Oh God.
A chef never tastes his own food. That's the rule.
Okay.
Because he wants to keep living.
Yeah.
That is the complete opposite of the rule I was given in cooking school. But you know what? I don't even want to know what goes on in our kitchens. Even the Ewoks stay out now.
Oh God.
Well, I never taste my own food. I just go. I just know it's gonna work just based on like the consistency between my fingers.
Oh God.
That's why every meal I serve, I rub my finger into a little bit first before I give it to the customer to make sure it's right.
Joel.
Yeah.
I think I need to go get a drink. Give me a second. No, I'm kidding.
This is why I work the front end of the house, not the back end. But since I'm the so-called owner of this establishment, I need to ask Derek about the kitchen. Derek, how's our kitchen doing?
Well, I think we're actually getting a lot better and more efficient now because I've borrowed a temp pad from the Time Variance Authority. And what I do now is, so I give the food to the customer, they eat the food, and then an hour later, I turn the time back, and the food reappears on the plate, so I can then serve it to someone else again. So we're saving a lot of money on food, and now I don't have to clean dishes anymore because they're just constantly refilling with food. And to make sure the customer doesn't notice that the food is disappearing from their stomachs after an hour, I am serving only Chinese food now.
Oh, no. Let's not do that. No.
Well, no, it's good
I'm
though because this gives me more free time. I can finally start doing regular tick checks on the Ewoks because Lyme disease is no laughing matter.
uh,
the
uh,
the Ewoks won't let you near them.
yeah, maybe we should start ordering food in and just serving it through our kitchen. So like it would be like
I
a
mean,
double dipping.
we do have an advisory about not eating the food.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but I could also use my temp pad to freeze the Ewok in a moment of time and then go, feel him up and then run away and put him back.
oh god. See, now I have a craving for Western Chinese food. Thanks, guys. Okay. Let's just move on here. I got nothing. I'm maybe 8 weeks away from starting my PhD at Western University in London, Ontario. I've been reading a lot of science fiction. I'm finally getting into the Old Man's War series by John Scalzi. I've been
Oh, I
reading.
love that.
Yeah, I'm on the second book now. I've been reading a lot of other books as well, and I've been the restrictions in Ontario has been slowly being relaxed, so I managed to go to some used bookstores the other day and pick up some stuff. I picked up the entire 2001 series by Arthur C. Clarke. We'll see how that goes. I just have to make space for it on my shelf. And yeah, that's about it. But today we're talking about Loki. Yes, the Norse mythological god. No, actually, we're talking about the TV series by Disney on Disney Plus.
But we're also talking
Okay.
about the Norse god, because that's what Loki is.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, absolutely. Because the people who created Loki, they rated North myths and religious belief systems, and for a lot of great material. So we're talking the first 3 episodes of the 6 episode first season. Yes, we're recording this after the third episode has come out and before the fourth episode lands in a few days. And yes, this is your spoiler alert. We're going to be talking spoilers and speculation for the first 3 episodes. And if you haven't seen the first 3 episodes of Loki, please go watch it. We don't want to make any mischief here. So there's that. All right, so let's discuss. Let's go first. Let's go with Carrie. Carrie, what was your first impression of the show?
Oh, I am totally and completely on board between the MCU and American Gods. I've lived long enough to see the quintessential God of Mischief on screen, and I know we are talking spoilers for the MCU, but I will not give out the spoiler for American Gods. Though if you've read the book, you know what the spoiler is.
Yeah.
They got really close at the end of this last season.
Yeah.
But they didn't drop that particular ball yet.
Oh, God. It's a shame that American Gods haven't been renewed yet. It looks like it's not going to be renewed, but I guess
They're saying that there might be a mini series. I think they only really need like 4 episodes, maybe.
that would be awesome. But Loki, yeah. So
Loki.
Derek, what's your first take? Your first impressions of the show?
I love Loki so far. It's really good. I mean, I love pretty much everything Marvel does, but I'd say I'm enjoying this even more than WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier, which I both also really loved. This story is going to such big, crazy places. I remember I read, a blurb, I think from Kevin Feige before this show came out, that this show would be even more important to the future of the MCU than the first two. And when I heard that, I was like, how is that possible? Because WandaVision, was setting up major storylines, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier was and introduced the new Captain America, who, will be Cap in the movies going forward. It's like, so what could happen in Loki that's so huge? But in the 15 minutes of the first episode, I got my answer when we met the Time Variance Authority and we learned about a multiversal war and the sacred timeline. This is all big, crazy stuff, and I think it's going to basically define the next phase of the MCU, the next 5 or 10 movies, and I think it's setting up our next major villain as well.
Right, and Loki is becoming a good guy, or at least more of a non-baddie guy. That's interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
as Loki said, he knows something that children do not, that no one is entirely good and no one is entirely evil.
Yes, and trust is for with children and dogs, right? There's that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So I think my take on it is I really enjoy the interplay with the themes of determinism, or if you spend a lot of time in studying religious theology and religious history, like almost like predestined stuff, versus free will, and how free will is like was non-existent in episode one, but it pokes through to the later episodes, and I love that there's always choice. My existential self is all over this little interplay and discussion on these themes. Just like people choose to listen to the show or watch our heads on YouTube, and they exercise their free will, right?
Well, I mean, jumping franchises for a bit. If the DC universe has taught us anything, is that even when you collapse everything into one timeline, you really don't.
Yeah.
Because they broke the multiverse, rearranged everything, but there's still a multiverse.
Are you talking about the Arrowverse shows right now?
Yeah, and everything else. By the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths, they still had a multiverse. It's just that all the shows on the Arrowverse in the Arrowverse were all on the same Earth now. Yeah. Except for maybe Stargirl, but they planned poorly.
I can't wait to see the multiverse version of Thanos when he's a hippie and he goes to Woodstock. And he just wants people to be peace and loving, and he's very relaxed because all the marijuana he's smoking, and be great.
Hey, I'd smoke out with that version of Thanos.
Oh,
he would block the view of so many people behind him. They would be so pissed off.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about. Good guys become bad guys, and bad guys become good guys, and absurdity rules the day. And I love it. That's great for the comics, for Marvel, for any multiverse type fantasy superhero franchise. But let me ask you this: let's go back to Loki, because he's the god of mischief. He's been around. He's been in how many MCU movies? Half a dozen at least.
Going back to Thor, yeah.
Yeah, so
all three Thors: Avengers 1, Avengers 3, Avengers 4. So, yep, 6.
Oh, man. And, of course, he has a unique backstory, which we're not going to dwell on here. But, at least they flushed his backstory out previously, so we don't have to go and revisit it. But we did kind of, when in the first episode, where he was shown his fate in the sacred timeline, how his life played out and how he died and all of that.
Well, that's because he was taken out of the timeline before all the rest of that happened. He was still kind of semi the villain when he escaped.
Oh yeah, and he was seeking his glorious purpose, right? To be king of what? Midgard, to be king of what? Earth, which is Midgard, or to be king of space. That's the Owen Wilson character, Morbius. Basically pointed out to him the absurdity of what he wanted to be. His glorious purpose is quite absurd, and to anyone who actually thinks it through. And just a little aside there, I'm a huge Owen Wilson fan. Not so much as screwball comedies. I really like Owen Wilson and his more dramatic, artsy pieces, such as The Life Aquatic, Dr. Seuss, his Wes Anderson roles. I love that. So I really like Owen Wilson, and I think he has been a great addition because he, to me, is the glue that holds the show together from a dialogue point of view. Because he's just so on the ball and witty and friendly, and like, oh, this is a man you want to go have a beer with. At least I do, but I see that's a lot of people.
As long as Loki's not around to ruin it.
Yeah. So
in addition to having these big, crazy plot, metaphysical concepts, the show has also been full of really great dialogue and character building scenes. The conversations that Loki and Mobius have in the first 2 episodes, and then Loki and Sylvie in the third one, they're really deep, and it's a really good examination of Loki's character. And in the first episode, I thought they did a brilliant job of kind of advancing him to the point of where he was in the movies beforehand, because that was one of the big questions I had going into this show. We're dealing with 2012 Loki, who's full-on villain, So what are they? I mean, are they going to try? I mean, I imagine that they would have run to made him more of the sympathetic character we knew at the end of his life. But how could you do that without retreading ground or taking forever to do it? So having him watch a This Is Your Life clip show, I thought it was a really brilliant way of quickly and efficiently causing him to go through a major change all at once.
Well, it just showed him the futility of what he was trying to do. And
yeah, it was all for nothing. Yeah.
All for nothing. But and this is where my Norse myth nerd brain goes like, but Loki never was interested in ruling stuff. I mean, the conversation he and Mobius have in the first couple of episodes basically gets around to what Loki is typically doing in the mythology. He causes mischief. He goes out and does and breaks something just so he can help put it back together again. He plays tricks on people. He gets people to do crazy shit, and sometimes he does it with Odin's full knowledge.
Yeah, almost every culture out there has some sort of trickster in their belief system, right? Christianity has Lucifer, for instance, right? Okay, and you can see it as more of a trickster. It depends on your perspective, I suppose. But in Norse mythology, you have Loki playing the role of a trickster. But not only that, like, let's go back to the tape, how they show his fate. And the fates are part of Norse mythology, right? Once there's a series of candles, right? And once your candle sniffs out and stops with the flame, you die, right? But with the tape, with being shown an analog tape on reels, it's it's getting pretty towards the real end, right? And so we have this film as a metaphor to determinism. And then we see, really, that's analog. I think we need to get into a digital world. And I think that's where we're heading. What do you guys think of the whole D.B. Cooper sequence in the first episode? D.B. Cooper, the famous hijacker from, I believe, the 50s?
I was not familiar with him, but that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you're into any of the woo-woo topics out there like UFOs or Bigfoot, D.B. Cooper is one of these big people out there because he got away with a bunch of cash, but he probably died on the way down, and it's one of the great unsolved cases for the FBI. So it really is kind of playing with a lot of people's headspace, especially if you're more conspiratorial minded. Which is a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, I love storytelling. There's that.
That bit was a bit of a misdirect for me because they showed that prominently in the commercials for the show leading up. And that kind of led me to think that, okay, so this show is going to be Loki with the Tesseract jumping through time, doing the hijinks. And like basically, every episode will be a different time period where he does something zany. I didn't... it never occurred to me this was going to be this whole thing about the TVA and protecting the timeline and stuff. That was a big surprise for me and a welcome one. So when they actually had the scene in the episode, I thought it was just kind of a weird aside. It didn't really have anything to do with anything. It's like, oh, that's all that was. I thought there was going to be something more to that.
Derek, how many Marvel shows have you watched on Disney Plus so far?
Free.
And how many of those shows have had trailers that misled you?
I don't remember the trailers for the other ones, really, so I'm not sure.
We'll try at least two, because WandaVision was just as misleading along a couple of lines.
Yeah.
So that is not it's not at all surprising that Loki is going to not going to follow what we assume things are going to be.
Yeah, it's almost like the D.B. Cooper scene was Loki playing mischief, or Marvel's playing mischief with our expectations with the trailer.
Exactly.
That does remind me of the sole complaint I have about this series so far. As I said, I went into it thinking it was going to be Loki hopping through time, having hijinks because he has the Tesseract. And I would have liked maybe one full episode of that before getting captured. I did
No.
think it was a little disappointing that he jumps through this portal and he lands in the desert. He drops the cube and then he goes wandering off to shout at, the local inhabitants. You would think he would want to keep track of where that cube is, since that's his whole lifeline. And because having that cube makes him all but all powerful. And, he just leaves it sitting in the dirt over there. And then these people show up and he just is like, hey, don't touch that. He was captured way too easily, given the fact that he had a Tesseract on hand. I thought that was, there should have been more to that. There should have been like a whole episode of him on the run with them not catching him until the end of the first episode.
Nah, we needed to puncture his ego right away. And as much as I love Loki, in all forms, yeah, we needed to puncture his ego right away. And especially, by the end of, I think it's at the end of that episode where he finds the drawer full of Infinity Stones, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they just show up randomly all the time. We just have, collections of them. It's like he needed to be shown how futile both running away from the TVA was, and what he thought he was trying to accomplish was.
Yeah, with the Infinity Stones being paperweights nowadays, and they at the time Variant's authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. They're like magic doesn't work in the TVA, so why would Infinity Stones?
Exactly.
It's also an established rule in Marvel Comics that the Infinity Gems, as they're called in the comics, they only work in their native dimension. So if you take you could have the Infinity Gauntlet and have all the power of a god, but if you take it into another dimension, it's worthless. It only works in the dimension it came from.
Interesting.
Which of course suggests that the TVA isn't in our dimension. It's in, some weird offshoot dimension. Well, I mean, obviously everything's its own little dimension, but it's not in the 616 dimension that it came from.
It's in a pocket universe.
Yeah, it gets way too complicated. I listened to one podcast where they theorized that it might possibly be in the quantum realm, because in Ant-Man and the Wasp, when they're looking for Janet, they do see what looks like a weird little city in the distance.
Yeah,
and there's a cutscene of Ant-Man and Wasp 2 where after Paul Scott finds Janet, and he's like dying, she runs into like one of the local inhabitants, and she has to have like an alien conversation with him to say, we're okay, leave us alone.
Yeah, my understanding is that they may be setting up some bad guys in the comic books, so we'll see who shows up.
Well, we know Kang's gonna be in Quantumania. Maybe this is what's setting that up. But of course, we've had theories about the other shows as well that have not come to pass, and that has pissed off a certain section of the Marvel fan community, apparently, because some people have expectations.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was utterly convinced that Mephisto was going to be in WandaVision because they were just hinting at it constantly. When it didn't happen, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I didn't hate that it didn't happen, but I was 100% certain he was going to be in it. And it's so funny that in the first Loki episode, when Mobius goes to ancient France and he says, "Who did this?" and he points to the stained glass window of a devil, it's like, oh God, it's Mephisto again.
Yeah.
Well, when all else fails, just play Mephisto, even until we're proven wrong.
I truly think that Kang the Conqueror is going to end up being behind this story, though, because in the time when they show the pictures of the Timekeepers, the guy in the middle looks like Kang the Conqueror. I mean, it truly looks like him, and it even kind of looks like Jonathan Majors, the actor that they cast to play Kang in Quantumania. So to me, there's no doubt in my mind that Kang is the ultimate power behind the Timekeepers and the TVA. I would be even more shocked than the Mephisto thing if it didn't happen.
Yeah, with these.
I guess we shall see.
Yes. And with these Timekeepers, 3 space lizards, what's up with them?
Well, it's funny that Loki keeps calling them space lizards, because at no point do they ever, imply that they're lizards or something. And like and on the pictures, they basically look like humans. So I don't know. I guess that was just a joke of, that crazy conspiracy theory that the Illuminati are run by the lizard aliens and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, we can go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, I think that's the joke there. Okay.
Yeah.
But what type of lizards are we talking about? No, let's not go down there. All right.
The timekeepers are Silurians.
Okay.
I'm gonna cross some fandom streams there.
Oh wow.
And the TVA's in the Hollow Earth.
Ooh.
Yeah. What I have to say about the Time Variance Authority of TVA, I love the bureaucracy. No, actually, I hate bureaucracy, but I love how this show presents the bureaucracy. Everything's just they're there, they're doing their jobs, right? No one's overly happy, but no one's tossing themselves off of cliffs or jumping off of buildings. So, yeah, bureaucracy, very bureaucratic.
Well, and there was this throwaway. Sylvie had this throwaway line where she pointed out that all the TVA agents are variants. And I went, wait, what?
Yeah, they're being used. They're being lied to. Yeah, it's a big fake out. It's a big fraud. They're being played.
I'm sure someone's playing someone somewhere.
Yes, and what they
I mean, I never really expected all those people to have just been created whole cloth by these three gods. I always assumed that was a scam going in. It didn't occur to me that they themselves were innocent people who had their minds wiped, but it certainly explains why Mobius has this strange obsession with jet skis, because I'm sure in his original life he was a big jet ski aficionado, and that's why he has this subconscious desire to see him again.
Yeah. That's great. Jet skis. I love that.
Yeah. And I really love the way they made all the technology look intentionally ancient and archaic, like it's from the 50s or something. That was a great visual design for everything.
Yeah, it's like the cartoon, the info commercial. While Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, was in line, of two people, right? So you have this, animated style,
Miss
Minute from like 1950s style. The voice done by Tara Strong, I believe, with a really heavy accent. And you kind of wonder, wait a second, are they playing like? Of course, they're playing with us on so many different levels. It just shows how behind the times the TVA really is.
Well, and someone pointed out that Miss Minute actually has 16 hours on her on her face, cool. Which I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, but I kind of likened it to like the clock in Labyrinth, where you have 13 hours. Well, this one has 16. So time, for the extent that it passes in the TVA, it probably passes differently than anywhere else.
Interesting. And guys, let me get your take on this. Do you think we saw a glimpse of Peggy Carter in the first episode as a prisoner of the TVA?
I don't know.
I thought I read that somewhere, but I didn't see it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, so
why would it be Peggy and not Steve?
And that's the thing, right? Steve was one, but who knows, right? So, what's easier? I don't think the TVA is really on the ball and everything is just legit. We saw how they did the one trial with Loki. How it wasn't really a trial. It was it was a sentencing. It was it was a verdict in the sentencing. Guilty. You're right.
Well, they pass stuff off as stuff that was meant to happen. Yeah. So this goes back to the Endgame and then the opening scene of Loki, where Loki knows that the Steve Rogers and Tony Stark that were trying to get the Tesseract away from the rest of from S.H.I.E.L.D. weren't the correct ones, and the TVA was just like, oh yeah, we know about that. They were supposed to do that. Yeah. But were they?
Yeah. Exactly. I think there's a lot of conspiratorial things going on, and there's conspiracy among certain parties.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since we know that all the TVA people think they were created by the godlike timekeepers, that everything they believe is a lie. So I think the whole thing about there was a multiversal war and now there's a single sacred timeline. I mean, this is a popular theory. It's not like I originated this, but basically that Kang the Conqueror created the TVA to create and preserve a single timeline where he wins. So the sacred timeline is just him calculating the probabilities and choosing the events that will lead to him conquering the world for all time. So anything that happened in that sequence is good, and if anybody does anything that would lead to him not winning, that's bad. So he sends these people to stop it, to keep that one sure path going. So there is no actual sacred timeline, and there probably wasn't even a multiversal war either. It's just a lie that he created to tell his underlings to preserve the timeline where he wins. And it is interesting that in that educational film, they talk about it could lead to madness and a new multiverse, because the Doctor Strange sequel is called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So this all seems to be feeding directly into the Doctor Strange sequel, to the Ant-Man sequel, and we know that the Spider-Man 3 is going to have some crazy guest stars as well. So it does seem like the next few Marvel movies are going to be this kind of arc about multiversal stuff, and this is where it starts right here with Loki.
Well, they have said that Loki's feeding directly into Multiverse of Madness, and apparently the showrunners for Loki and the writers for Multiverse of Madness have been sharing notes, much like Taika Waititi and James Gunn have been sharing notes with regards to Thor 4 and Guardians 3. Guardians 3.
Yep.
Yeah. I think this is going to be, I can't wait to the next 3 episodes to see where this is going, because we can speculate, which I love doing, and I think there's things are coming. I have to ask myself, how many of these Lokis will die, right? Or are we going to have a complete TV show full of Lokis?
Well, apparently Tom Hiddleston has said that he's not in Love and Thunder, which is sad. I really hope that they don't kill off Loki. Although if they do, then they do. But it would be kind of a shame to lose him at this point, especially when he has a chance to do some actual good this time around.
Yeah, but we're talking about Loki in the sacred timeline, which is no longer sacred. Now we have other Lokis, right? We got the Armstrong Loki. We have the Troll Loki. We have all these variants. It was a teenage Loki. Yeah. Of course, we have one of the major characters in this series, Sylvie, right? Played by Sophia Del Martino.
Yeah.
And wait a second. We've been recording for over a half hour, and we haven't mentioned that there's a female Loki. What's up with that?
I mean, this is not at all surprising to me. Look, in mythology, Loki is the father of Hel and the mother of Sleipnir. So, okay, read into that what you want. I mean, he fathered 3 children and mothered 1. So
yeah, Loki's Loki's gender fluidity, however you say that, his gender identity and sexual orientation is that's cool. I really like it. This is the first time MCU we have someone who is definitely bisexual or fluid or goes back and forth, and it doesn't matter because 1, it doesn't matter, and 2, it fits perfectly with the character, in my opinion.
All right.
Yeah, because in the last 10 years of the comics, Loki was a woman for a long time, and he was a little boy. He was a teenager, so he takes many forms.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, in mythology, it's not even just him. I mean, the Norse myth is rife with tales of Loki getting Thor to dress up as a woman just to, pull one over on the frost giants and stuff. Which Thor is never happy about, but
I actually used that in my own story. It's called The Lay of Thrym.
Nice. Hey, what are your favorite scenes so far in the series, in the first 3 episodes?
At the beginning when Loki's trying to run away and they keep making him, they keep rewinding him, and you're just like, they're just messing with him. I think that's fabulous.
Great. Derek,
and also,
go ahead.
What?
Wait,
also the drawer full of Infinity Stones is just hilarious.
Cool.
In the first episode, I thought the little instructional video talking about the multiversal war was a real mind blower, because I didn't realize we were going to be delving into all that stuff in this episode before I saw that. So that was really good. And I really enjoyed all of the deep conversation scenes between Loki and Mobius in the first 2 episodes. And episode 3, again, really good conversation scenes between Loki and Sylvie, where they really dig into one another's characters and what they think about things. And the ending of episode 3, which was a prolonged fake one-shot as they're running through the city and fighting people trying to get to the ship, that was gorgeous. They said they were inspired by Children of Men, which did a lot of the same long one-take action shots. And while you can clearly see where the cheat cuts are, it still looked great. It was very cinematically amazing.
Cool. I like that. It was a nice arc, you could say. But my favorite scene, I had 2. One is the whole Pompeii scene, where Loki is basically saying in Latin, awesome. You're all going to die. The volcano is exploding. We're gods. And then he releases the goats. That just cracked me up, right? Okay, because they know, and just hiding where disasters when everyone's going to die is a good part to be in the timeline to hide. There's that one. And I'd be remiss to say if I didn't mention the whole drinking scene on the train from the 3rd episode. Who can't use a good dirge, good little sing-along, especially when we're all going to die. So that was special. I like that.
Yeah, the 3rd episode, they seem to have written themselves into a corner. I'm very fascinated to find out how they write themselves out of that this week.
I'm sure Mobius will just show up and rescue them.
Oh, God.
Because Mobius now knows through Loki that, she's hiding in apocalypses, so he'll know to look there.
But how many apocalypses is he going to get through before he figures out which one?
But they did say that this was the worst one, so that would be the first one to check.
Right.
I thought that was a brilliant idea, by the way, the notion of if you want to hide from a time-traveling authority, to hide in the middle of an apocalypse, because they would never notice any changes you make because everybody dies anyway. That was a really clever thought. I thought that was... I can't think of ever hearing that in another story anywhere else. That was really clever.
I mean, unless crossing the streams again, you happen to run across a Time Lord who takes one family out of the apocalypse at the last minute. But we haven't seen any Time Lords show up in Loki just yet. So
not yet.
In the 3rd episode, they did mention traveling through interdimensional time and space, though. I think that was an intentional Doctor Who reference.
Yeah, nice. I like that.
If ever there was a Marvel series where they could probably get away with a police phone box somewhere in the scene, this would be it.
Well, if they can have a never nude in Infinity War, I'm sure they can fit this in there.
All right, guys, what do you guys want to see in the last 3 episodes?
Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Just chaos. I have no expectations. I think I've explained this before. Having expectations is a good way to get punched in the face. This series, more than most, I think the less expectations you have, about what is going to happen, the better.
Okay, that's true. Derek, what would you like to see in the remaining part of this season?
You were talking before about you weren't sure like if Loki was going to survive, if this was going to go on. To the best of my knowledge, nobody has actually said that this is a one-shot series because they seem to hint that there was not going to. Well, they've said that there was not going to be another WandaVision season 2, and it sounds like there's not going to be a Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2 either. But it does sound like there could be a Loki season 2. Nobody has said no to that. So I think we could continue to see Loki, hopefully with Sylvie as well, kind of having adventures through time and space. I do think at the end of this season, Loki and Sylvie will succeed in dissolving the Time Variant Authority, because they're gonna tell the people, you're all mind wiped regular people that that you've been made into slaves. So they're gonna lead a rebellion and overthrow the Timekeepers. And then at the very end of episode 6, we're gonna find out that the person behind it all along was Kang the Conqueror, and then he'll no longer be secure in his timeline, so he'll need to step forward himself to start doing things, and that will lead into Ant-Man Quantumania.
As long as it's not Howard the Duck doing it, I'd be fine with it. So,
well, Howard the if it's Howard the Duck as voiced by Seth Green, I would be completely for that. not Howard the Duck from the 80s. Well, okay, so to counter Derek just slightly, Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2 could very well be a completely new series called Captain America and the White Wolf or something like that. Yeah, so what we might think of as season 2 might not be season 2, and the season 2 of Loki could be Sylvie.
That's true. Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. Well, they did say they're doing a 4th Captain America movie, though, so it seems like that character is basically graduating back up to the movies, so that they wouldn't do it as a TV show at that point.
But you never know.
Yeah.
What I want to see in the next 3 episodes, and Derek has already mentioned it, but I'm going to be more, pointed, is that I want to see bloody revolution. I want the TVA to fall. I want the variants to raise up and establish a new order, a new time order of some type.
I am not at all shocked.
With jet skis. Lots of jet skis.
With jet skis.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, instead of the 3 Timekeepers on the flag, there'll be Owen Wilson on a jet ski.
I've never been on a jet ski. Yeah, maybe someday.
Me neither.
So, there you go.
Have you, Carrie?
Not on a jet ski, no, but on a wave rider, yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any last thoughts before we close the doors on the first 3 episodes of Loki season 1?
Nope, I don't think so. Go watch it.
Yeah, if you loving it. It's great.
Watch it again.
Only if you have the time for it, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Time is all relative, though.
There you go. Yes, it is.
Lunchtime is doubly so.
All right, we'll deal with with special relativity later. So let's close our doors, shall we? So this show is released as a podcast and on YouTube. Subscribe today and check out our Discord. It's a great source of news and discussion. You can find our Discord server invite on our social media. Speaking of which, we have 3 channels for our social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I do the Twitter and Instagram, and Derek does the Facebook. Hey, Derek, you're doing a really good job on the Facebook page, man. Just saying.
Thank you.
You can contact us by email at management@scifipubcast.space. Carrie, what's your Twitter address?
My Twitter handle is Carrie Blackfire42. That's Keri Blackfire42.
And what other podcasts are you on?
I am also on DC Talk, Cape Chronicles, and Enter the Dojo over on the Random Chatter Network.
Great. Please check them out. They're great shows.
Yes. Thank you.
Anytime. Derek, what's your Twitter address?
I'm at DerekJBB, and I'm too busy working in the kitchen to be on another podcast.
There you go. Keep up the good work in the kitchen, I suppose. All right. I'm on Twitter at Joel_Welch, WELCH. It's closing time. Please take care and make it home safe. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Music provided courtesy of Logan Rathbone. Podcast logo by Drew M. Copyrighted Joe Welch. Listen responsibly, and we can't wait for your next visit to our fine establishment. Cheers.